Therefore, we have included various stakeholders to the research, national and local government, private sectors, NGOs, and communities. The second component is capacity building. The third is student mobility between Australia and Indonesian universities. And the fourth one is the high-level dialogues and a series of webinar. So today we have included various stakeholders to the research, national and local government, private. So yeah, that's just from YouTube. So it means that it's already live. So hello, Bapak Ibu from YouTube. So now I just want to say something about some logistical aspects of this webinar to ensure that we all have enjoyable sessions and a meaningful discussion. The participants don't have to fill in any attendance list. We will have attendance report from Zoom, so you can just focus on the materials. We also have the interpretation feature from English to Indonesia. You can just click the globe image in the panel and choose English if you wish. And then bahasa Indonesia, Bapak Ibu bisa klik Japanese. Jangan khawatir, itu bukan bahasa Jepang, hai arigato, tapi itu bahasa Indonesia. Karena sayangnya di YouTube di Zoom masih belum ada opsi bahasa Indonesia. We also conduct poll today, so I hope all of you can fill in the poll and we will share the result later. I hope all of you is filling that up, yeah? So that's great. Now we have 322 participants, 204 participants filling in and then still counting. So it's great. And you can write down your questions in the Q&A box. We usually receive a lot of questions, so it is challenging for us to answer all, but we will do our best. Make sure that you read the existing questions first before you write down your own, just in case it has similarity with yours. Then you can just upvote it by clicking the thumbs up. For YouTube viewers, you can also write down your questions, so don't worry. Our team will move it to the Q&A box in the Zoom to ensure that it can be seen by other participants at Zoom to be upvoted. The chair will focus on the most popular questions with the most upvote or the most relevant to the discussion at that moment. The presentation materials can be downloaded in our Google Drive account, and we will share the link at the end of the webinar. Information about the request for certificates will be shared in the end of the webinar, so stay tuned. So Bapak Ibu, ladies and gentlemen, now we already have 341 people and still counting, so welcome for those of you who just joined. Before we start the discussion, let's hear the opening remarks from Prof. Kathleen Byrne, the director of Griffith Asia Institute, who is also the chairwoman for the CAIPSDCC from Griffith University. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Prof. Kathleen. Please give a round of applause. So even though it's online, we still, can give a round of applause. Prof. Kathleen.
I think I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but we cannot see you.
Here we go.
Yeah.
There.
Yay.
Thank you. Terima kasih, Leah, and thank you to everyone. It's really an absolute pleasure to be here for the 7th webinar in this series. So selamat pagi to those of you in Indonesia, selamat siang or good afternoon to those of you in Australia, and hello and welcome wherever you are in the world. You know, it's customary for us in Australia to begin events like this with an acknowledgement of the traditional custodians of the land where we're meeting. For me, in Brisbane, that's the Turrbal and the Jagera people. But again, many of you are joining us from many different lands, so welcome. I'd like to take this opportunity to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and I extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and Indigenous peoples and cultures around the world. And I do that thinking that it's particularly important for the discussion we'll be having today, where we're talking about the role of community in our sustainable landscape management. And it's a really important discussion for us to be having here in Australia, as well as for many of you and communities around Indonesia, and of course around the world. This builds on a really important series of discussions that we've been having about sustainable landscape management. And so far we've been talking about different topics, from the protection and preservation of our primary forests, to the issues surrounding wildlife trade, to the new role for ecotourism. In all of these discussions, and they build on discussions that we've had around issues of global health and how we think about the way that we interact with our environment, particularly now in this COVID-19 era. In all of these discussions, we're thinking about what a new normal looks like and how we can all adapt and interact in a way that is healthy for us as individuals, for us as communities, and also for our earth. So it's really important for me that we're able to have this discussion with our colleagues in Indonesia, and particularly under the umbrella of the CAIPSDCC, SDCC, our collaborative Australia-Indonesia partnership on sustainable development and climate change. Australia and Indonesia both grapple with many issues relating to sustainable development, and we have a lot to learn from each other. So I'm particularly pleased to be part of this partnership. I'd like to acknowledge our patron, who I think is joining us on YouTube, Pak Rahmat Witula. I'd also like to acknowledge my colleague at Universitas Indonesia, Prof. Yatna Supriyatna. Also our colleagues from Griffith University and from Universitas Indonesia. We are really, really lucky to have experts, academic experts, researchers, students who are really important to the way that our partnership moves forward into the future. And if I can also make a special mention for a community partner, the Secretariat of Sustainable District Association, LTKL, and in particular the Executive Director, Gita, Miss Gita, who's joining us here today. We're really lucky to be able to partner with community, and for our community partners to help us think about how we can be particularly inclusive in our approaches to many of these topics. Just to close, I know there are many of you joining from all around the world. Welcome. Please make the most of this discussion and join in the chat, ask questions. This is a really important opportunity for us to make the most of our collaboration, to learn from each other and to build our partnerships as individuals, as communities, and as two nations moving forward. And on one final note, I should just make mention of the fact that the Indonesia-Australia Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement between our two countries enters into force officially this weekend. It's a signal that there is much more for us to be doing together and much more for us to be learning from each other. Can I say a final thank you to our really dynamic secretariat, Miss Leah and Hendika, who do a really fabulous job of bringing these webinars together and making sure they're dynamic, inclusive, welcoming, and most of all relevant to the kind of issues that we're facing today. So thank you, have a great session, and I look forward to the discussion. Thanks so much, Leah.
Thank you so much, Prof. Kathleen. Wonderful remarks, and then set the tone for our discussion today. So ladies and gentlemen, let's moving on. Now we can start the discussion, but I would like to introduce you to our wonderful chair today, Gita Shahrani, who is the Executive Director to the Secretariat of Sustainable District Association, or Lingkar Temu Kabupaten Lestari, a membership-based association established and managed by district leaders in Indonesia. It intends to accelerate and better support the district's sustainable vision. Gita has more than a decade of legal, finance, structure, and then strategic management consulting and program implementation experience. Gita is a sustainability professional focusing on climate change and green investment. She was the senior program management for the Indonesia Palm Oil Pledge, or IPOP, and the leading member of the planning and funding deputy of the former National Red Plus Agency. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome me to please join me to welcome Gita Shahrani. Kak Gita, silakan.
Hi, Malia. I don't think I can start my video just yet because it's enabled.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for again having LTKL as one of the community partner. I'd like to also extend a multiple gratitude to the Secretariat team, Ms. Leah and Mr. Handika, that's has been super helpful in prepping all of the webinar. We will have a full and rich session today. I'm very excited to also welcome a lot of my personal idol in this topic on sustainable landscape management. For those of you that are joining in Zoom and also in YouTube, we'd like to basically start the session by saying, hopefully by the end of the session, not only that you will have a more in-depth knowledge of what is sustainable landscape management, how is it being perceived from the community perspective, what is the role of community in actually managing their own landscape or contributing to landscape management elsewhere. And at the end of the day, hopefully it will also trigger what can you do as a participant, both as researcher, academician, practitioners, policymakers, private sector, no matter where your background is coming from, you can still be of contribution to the effort of managing landscape sustainably. So that's the hope for today's session. We will recheck again towards the end whether it fulfills your expectation. Right now, I'd like to actually say hi to our panelists. Hopefully, we will already have all of them here. I will read their bio one by one, actually. So first and foremost, we will start with Pak Wiratno. Pak Wiratno is also a personal idol of mine. He has been very much focused on sustainable landscape management in a very tangible manner. He is now the Director General of Ecosystem and Natural Resource Conservation in the Ministry of Environment and Forestry in Indonesia. And he has held the title since 2017. Born in 1962, very young still, Pak Wiratno obtained a bachelor's degree from Faculty of Forestry in Universitas Gajah Mada, and also a Master of Science from ITC, the Netherlands, especially in the field of rural development, regional and project planning and implementation. He once also served as the head of Gunung Leuser National Park Office. So it's very timely. Behind me here is actually a scenery from Aceh Tamiang, in which part of it is actually located in the Gunung Leuser National Park, who we also have the representative from community leaders as well today. And in 2014 until 2017, Bapak is also the Director of Social Forestry Preparation at the Directorate General of Social Forestry and Environmental Partnership. He was also stationed in East Nusa Tenggara KSDA office from 2012 to 2014. Wow, what an extensive background. So without further ado, we'd like to actually welcome Pak Wiratno to the stage. Bapak, can you hear me?
Bisa, suaranya nggak bisa kenceng lagi nih, di telepon tadi, kenapa?
Oh, already Pak, suaranya sudah cukup terdengar Pak. Pak Wiratno sudah bisa dengar suara saya Pak?
Belum bisa gitu.
Halo? Pak Wiratno? Halo Pak? Bapak sudah bisa dengar suara
Ya,
saya?
silakan.
Iya, siap. Sudah terdengar suara saya Pak?
Ya.
Iya Pak. Bapak boleh saya undang untuk menyalakan video
Selamat
Pak?
Pagi.
Selamat pagi Bapak. Hi, good morning. So, yep, we can already see you. Hi Pak, welcome Pak Wiratno.
Kecil ya.
I think it's fine.
Suaranya kecil.
Suara saya yang kecil atau suara Bapak, Pak? Kalau suara Bapak cukup terdengar. Can you hear our voice? Halo? Oke.
Halo, ya selamat pagi Bu Sobi.
Selamat pagi Pak, saya Gita Pak. Mungkin mukanya agak mirip sama Sobi. Iya. Saya ini agak kesulitan suara Bapak timbul tenggelam nih. Apakah sudah bisa terdengar? Oke, mungkin sambil kita menunggu Pak Wiratno untuk rejoin, saya akan menyampaikan juga beberapa bio. I will also convey part of the bio of the existing other panelists while waiting for Pak Wiratno to rejoin us. So we also will have Pak Albertus Hadi Pramono. Hi, Pak. I can already see your face here.
Hi, Mbak Gita.
Hi, Pak. Pak Monty is a cultural geographer with a PhD from the Department of Geography, the University of Hawaii at Manoa in Honolulu, ya Pak ya. He was also a biologist with a bachelor degree from the University of Indonesia, but decided to be a social scientist. So after finishing his first degree, he spent 8 years in the environmental movement in Indonesia with research and managerial positions. During these years, he actively involved in policy advocacy on forestry, biodiversity, and also climate change. His involvement in policy advocacy continues to date by providing supports and conducting background studies for the work. His interests are the right-based approach in forestry and biodiversity conservation, indigenous people's right, and tenurial system. Also, participatory mapping for community-based resource planning and interaction between different knowledge systems. So it's very relevant to the topic that we're discussing today. I think we got Pak Wiratno and also Pak Monty on the line now. Pak Wiratno, can you already hear us better now? I think Bapak is still on mute.
Okay, Mbak.
Yeah,
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, Pak. So now that you're back with us, we'd actually like to start the session with you. And as a first speaker, hopefully Bapak can take us through on the bigger concept of sustainable landscape management and what do you think is basically the role of community in leading this effort on the ground. So the time and floor is yours, Pak. You will have 10 minutes to present and I will give you a clue when it's already 2 minutes left. Go ahead, Pak Wiratno. The time and floor is yours.
Okay. Can I have my slide, please?
Sure. This is already sharing. Yeah. Can you already see the slide, ya, Pak? Yeah.
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 I just want to share on Otto, our guru in MIT. He mentioned about 4 structures of attention. Go ahead, please. Next slide. Yes. Very important to understand the situation of attention. Otto said that there are 4 fields of for structure of attention. One is an habitual situation. I and me or my organization is working on my own boundaries. The second field is ecosystem. The third is empathic relational, and the fourth is generative ecosystem. Let's see the detail. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. In the habitual system, I and me, he said that my action come from the very of my system, my organization. I think we cannot do this in the landscape system. That's why we should go to the second field. Next slide, please. The ecosystem states that hello, going back to the slide before, the field 2, Otto mentioned about the field 2 ecosystem. In this situation, I going to the periphery of my boundaries of duty or organization, and it is not enough in the landscape approach. We should go to field 3. The field 3 is about the empathic. We should go beyond our boundaries of organization, of duty, or of responsibility. The field 3 mentioned that my action comes from the beyond my boundary, beyond my what do you call it? My duty. For instance, in the national park system, we go beyond the park boundaries. That is very important. We go to the field, we go to the villages around the park, or whoever stay as our neighbor, we should talk and discuss with them how to save the uh, and the field for the last field. Auto mentioned that next please, uh, generative ecosystem, I and now situation. Now it is not easy as for my position. For instance, I have to take a decision based on the now situation, based on the situation flowing right now. He state that my action comes from the sphere that surround my open boundaries. In this field for generative ecosystem, we often not being a very exclusive organization, cannot do in this landscape approach situation. We have to open up our boundaries and becoming a more inclusive organization. Next, please. I think the auto statement in the forfeit is very important and it's very relevant. The future potential and from now situation, we can say that learning by sensing and actualizing emerging future possibilities. Yeah, if we stay in the now situation and we can predict the future situation that we can start from now. They call it autos call it the future potential. Yeah. Next, please. And then uh, uh, he also mentioned this is the related to that uh, the forfeit. First is he called for type of listening. First is from my past experiences. He calls it the habitual listening, and the second go into beyond that is into deeper is my open mind. The factual listening, a factual situation. I said that what if there is a illegal logging, that is a symptom. The core problem is not that. Maybe the core problem is because they are poor or they are landless families and they forced to do the illegal in the park, for instance. Yeah. Factual situation, factual listening is very important to know the now situation. And then from that, he mentioned about open heart, the empathic listening, and the open will, the generative listening. Yeah, take a decision from now situation. Next, please. Uh, yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah. What I dream of is long ago until now is how to develop a collective awareness. Collective awareness is the basis for collective action. Yeah. So and then we know that why we do with the local people, according to my 15 years experience, that when the local people get the benefit from the forest, from the marine, from the resources, they start to open up their cooperation with us. So 27.14 million hectares of protected areas is surrounded by more than 6,000 villages and inhabited by 16 million people. So when we manage national park protected areas, we have to work with the local people. And also we have to work in the landscape scale beyond the boundaries. That is the message. So important to work with the local villagers around the park or even inside the park for the masyarakat adat, for instance. Next, please. Yeah, the next slide. No, not that.
I think that was the last slide, Pa. Do you want
The
to
last
go
the
back?
slide. Oh, sorry. Okay, okay. It is not the last version. Okay, I think the message is that we have to work with the with everybody around our boundaries of organization or around the park that we manage. Yeah, and so by doing that, we use the field 3 and field 4 of the four structure of attention proposed by Otto, the U theory. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pa. I still got 30 seconds left.
Thank you, Sobi.
Thank you. I'm Gita, Pa, not Mbak Boshobi. But just on the last 30 seconds. Yeah, hi, Pa.
Bu Gita Moko.
Iya, Pak.
Ada 3-4 slide terakhir. Saya bisa continuous untuk share screen-nya untuk Pak Dirjen, Pak Wiratno.
Mungkin habis. Oke, mungkin setelah ini Pak Moko karena waktunya kebetulan sudah habis.
Yeah. That is not my final.
Okay. Noted, Pak. No, I just wanted to ask you before we move to Pak Monty. You mentioned the force structure, and that's under normal circumstances. Do you think it will change with the current situation of pandemic? Do you think the type of support that community have provided throughout the years will actually be shifted because now they have a different priority due to COVID? Or actually it will boost up the effort even more?
Sorry, that's question for me?
Yeah, Pak. Going back to your last point on community support. Okay, going back to the last point on the community support, do you think the COVID situation, this pandemic, will actually shift the way that the community looks at conservation and sustainable landscape management? Would that boost their support or would that actually decrease their support?
And I think during the COVID, they still stay with their principle of the economic. Yeah, they need the real economic move on, going on at the field level. So
I see.
But we stop all the park from the tourism activities, and that influence the local economic. That is the situation. It's almost already 3 months now. Yeah.
Okay, Pak, noted. So thank you, Pak Wiratno, for your enlightening opening speech and very deep in terms of philosophical background for community actions. And the 2 points that I'd like to actually highlight before we move to Pak Monty is that Pak Wiratno mentioned collective awareness is the basis of collective action. So people need to be aware first, and they have to understand the real benefit of supporting sustainable landscape management, then they will support. I don't know if Pak Monty is going to echo this opinion. Let's just give the stage back to him now. Go ahead, Pak Monty. Same timing, 7 minutes, and I will give you a cue when it's 2 minutes left. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mbak Gita. Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon in those in Australia, and probably also good evening in other places. So thank you for having me in this webinar. It's an honor to be, in this to be invited for a speaker here. So, Mbak Lia, please, the slide, please. Okay, so my presentations would be basically using the case of participatory mapping in Indonesia to show that, researchers or should go into engaged research. What is engaged research is about? Yeah, we can start talking. Okay, next slide, please. Can you have the full slide version?
Maybe it needs to go to the presentation mode. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm trying to say in this slide is basically what is sustainable landscape management is about. Basically, that is talking about different approaches of spatial, ecological, and socioeconomic, and that it's basically we need to manage different needs, different or even competing demands on resources, and also that it needs also to take into account that communities are at the center. So at this sustainable landscape management. But the problem is that we need to know who controls and who decides the management of land resources, and then it takes about the issue of power relation. So basically, this is picking up from what Pak Wiratno just mentioned, from his presentation earlier. So, and also, sorry to that what I'm presenting probably will bit. I know Pak Wiratno is already knows very much about what I'm going to present here. So next slide, please. Now the reality is that, ideally that rural communities need tenure security, but that the problem is that they have legal landlessness. What legal landlessness is actually, they have been there for years, but they don't have the legal status of their lands. So this picture basically showing, if probably not many people understand that pole with HP stands for hutan production forest. So it's actually the boundaries of the forest area or kawasan hutan is within, in the middle of the village. So this is creating tenure insecurity. And then also the clear planning units for the communities to be involved in sustainable landscape management, that for now at least from 75,000 villages around in Indonesia, in 2017 it's only about 12,000 that is already clear, where the boundaries are. Next, please. So with this, we need to have kind of engaged research. What's engaged research is, it's actually that we have a conscious choice to take sides for the interest of the public or the marginalized groups. So we can say that researchers should be advocates, for the public and also the marginalized groups. So, and in doing so, we need to have a group working with the communities rather than working for or about them. So this is kind of that we have to take sides, clearly here. So, and next slide, we basically we can see how we do it. Using the case of participatory mapping, it's basically the people using the power of maps. Maps is very powerful. In we cannot say we can cannot do justice here. We actually to talk about this in 7 minutes. So, but you can see that maps is very powerful, and everybody now basically, if you have gadget or especially smartphones, you'll see and use maps everywhere, and you can create maps everywhere. So this is the power of maps that are now being used by the people to put them back again within the in the modern maps, because they are dispossessed. Dispossession means that they are somewhat kicked out, spatially. They are through the maps, that suddenly their maps and their lands become concessions or become kawasan konservasi and so on, the protected areas and so on. So basically, doing the maps, if the people, local communities become the mappers, they create their own maps, and the growth of spatial information technologies or mapping technologies really helping them to do this. And also that's important also that by doing participatory mapping, there's some kind of translation process coming from their local knowledge into the map, cartographic map. So this is something new. Next, please. So this is from at least 21 years I've been doing research and also working on participatory mapping, and these are what people are doing. Basically, they're creating their own maps. They're learning, from doing the sketches, like the top 2 pictures, or collecting data in the forest, and learning how to use GPS, and they with the advancement of technology, they're also using new gadgets. Next,
Monty,
please.
sorry, 2 more minutes.
Okay, yeah, I'll about to. Next, please. So this is kind of how you see the difference in the differences of technology they're using. The left side is more in the 90s. Basically, they're still using manually, using compasses and so on. The one in the middle start using GIS, but the ones on the right, they start using drones, and also Google, Google Earth and high resolution satellite imagery. So these are what they're doing. And next slide, please. So the key issues here and that we need to know is that there are unequal power relations in land and natural resources, and disposition and resource conflicts becomes the results of it. And in participatory mapping, the community becomes the knowing subjects. They produce their own knowledge, their own version of knowledge, and also that there's some transfer of knowledge especially from the elders to the young generation, and also that they're doing some kind of community organizing to fight for their cause, especially to fight for their tenurial rights, in agrarian reform, social forestry, and getting their customary forest recognized. And the last slide, basically they're kind of doing community-based natural resource management and planning. This is the result, for after 25 years of mapping. Around more than 11 million hectares are for indigenous peoples, masyarakat adat, yeah. And the slide, that people can also produce their own spatial planning effort at the village level. There are some slides that we can continue talking in our discussion. Yeah, that's all for now. Thank you, Mbak Gita.
Great, thank you, Pak Monty. I think towards in the beginning, it gives a larger context of how can we implement the concept of sustainable landscape management through community directly themselves. And I think the highlight of Pak Monty's talk was on how maps can actually become the tools of community in terms of supporting and acknowledging their own rights towards a certain area. Now, before we move on to the two other speakers in the panel today, I'd like to just remind everyone that we can only answer your question if you put it under the Q&A box. So there's no raised hand feature, unfortunately, and there's also some people that's putting the questions in the chat box. Those cannot be answered either. So Bapak dan Ibu, the participant, you can basically just use the Q&A box. There's already 4 questions. If you see any question that resonate with your own question, you can just give a thumbs up so that it will be answered live by the panelists. We'd also like to remind you to please participate in the polling. There's around 84% of you that have participate in the polling exercise. Those who have not, we invite you to participate right now. Also, to make use of the interpretation box in the globe icon, you can select Japanese to hear the Indonesian translation. All right, so now we will like to invite the third panelist, the lovely Miss Maggie Mermans. So Maggie is actually born in Indonesia, but raised in the Netherlands. She has over 19 years of experience in community engagement, including in the area behind me, again, in Aceh, right? And she also has community-based conservation experience in both Europe, Latin America, Asia, and Oceania. Her project include the establishment of community conservation areas, protected area management, and alternative livelihood development. She is now a PhD candidate at Griffith University, researching community engagement, specifically in conservation. So the time and floor is yours, Maggie. The same principle, 7 minutes, and I'll cue you when there's 2 minutes left. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Yeah, now
Yep,
it's starting.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
awesome. Okay, well, thank you for that, for the other speakers as well. And I'd like to sort of hook into some of the points that they raised as well within this short presentation. I'd like to sort of highlight about, you know, community engagement and getting people involved in landscape management starts with caring about the landscape that they're living in and really creating a passion or a love for the environment. You're not going to feel included or be part of the management if you're not really feeling connected to it. So it's finding that connection and finding that passion within a community, why they should care. And I agree with the points that Pak Wiratno raised in regards to, you know, you've got to have a collective awareness because that is a base of collective action. But an awareness doesn't really necessarily mean that you care. And the caring, it starts often with that creating of that care as well. And I agree with the points that Pramono raised in terms of community knowledge as well, that we have to look at that. So in regards to that community landscape management, I feel that, you know, it's often used, that engagement with community is used to create that bridge between policymakers and the community. Often only an interaction is being started or commenced from a policymaker perspective is when people are starting to complain about certain things. You know, policymakers don't often hear gratitude or good things about what a government is doing to help them or to improve their situation, but they get more prompted about complaints. So that's often how government is providing action. But the way that they're providing action or things that they would like to achieve with certain policies, people don't really care about. And it's really trying to find that connection. So one of the first steps that you really want to start off in including communities is really trying to understand the community, and not just the beauty of it and maybe the problems, but also what things are happening within the community itself. How do people live? What is their way of livelihood, obtaining livelihood, whether that is tourism, whether that is, you know, other ways of providing their food or any schooling issues that they have, but understanding how they live and what is at the core of each community. And often, you know, we do have people from international NGOs that come in and want to be involved in that sustainable landscape management, but not really have the insight in what is at the core of these communities and what is happening there. And these are just little sort of pictures from my experience around the world where, you know, these experiences of local communities are kind of similar. You know, people are cooking and living like this, but when you're from a westernized country, for example, the bottom photo is where I grew up, and then I go work in an area where people live you know, in a little home like that and sharing that with a family of 5, you know, you've got to be able to place yourself in that situation and how they do their washing, how they shower. You've got to be able to understand that. You've got to think about the schooling, you know, if they're concerned about just feeding their kids and getting them to school, you know, changing that into concerning about their local environment and certain issues that maybe are at that top level of understanding. We've got to come down to that level at community and how that works. So once we understand that community, we've then got to think about creating a connection and build that trust. And as some of the questions are just raised, often that trust can be broken, and building that trust is a long-term commitment that you would have as an organization or a government that would have that community engagement, that landscape management in place. And that might mean you've just got to sit down and cook dinner with them or create a connection with the community long term. You can use people that are community champions to create a connection if you're coming in from an international NGO, et cetera, or really connect with the youth. And often they're overlooked in that community engagement. And often community engagement programs really focus on the stakeholders that can submit a vote or are paying rates or have some kind of power. But instilling that care and starting to have that love and passion for the environment starts with sort of the youth and sort of the younger generation, and you know, starting with those you know, schools and teaching is also an important part of that. So once we are having that collaboration and build that trust, I also think it's really good to look at finding what's strong in a community, not what's wrong. So often community organizations go into a community and looking at, you know, the problems and how can we solve this, and what is wrong and what do we need to do in order to fix it. But there are often very much strong mechanisms within a community, and as Pramono said before, you know, use that community knowledge and what is strong with that community that you can sort of harbor in order to create those collaborative outputs. So these are, for example, pictures one is in Latin America and one is Australia, where communities are coming together to really have like local stewardship and create that change in landscape management. So that coming together and community spirit is something that is really strong in that as well. You know, getting together with communities on the beach and their willingness to learn is another component, can be really strong. What is their willingness to learn? What is their willingness to engage? If it is a strong component, really you use that as part of your engagement strategy or your landscape management. And then, you know, creating partnerships and collaboration is really important. As a government or as an NGO that's coming in and wanting to work with communities, really create those collaborations at all levels and make them champions, other than, you know, taking, you know, sort of that celebration yourself, but really get them involved. And then find suitable engagement activities. Often, you know, organizations come in with a one-off workshop and then just do a capacity building program and then leave that community again. There needs to be suitable engagement activities where people are empowered. There is constant engagement and capacity building in place to get people on board and to keep them interested as well, which means creating resources, teacher packs for schools, making sure that people have access to these types of resources that is at their level, whether it's, you know, when you're working in a remote community and you don't have technology at hand, to create resources that are accessible for everyone as well. And then that means that you empower others, that capacity building, that they can take that scepter forward, making sure that they feel empowered to create that change and feel inclusive and really are in control of their future and going forward, that they are, you know, the custodians of that particular environment and landscape. And then help them celebrate. So once they've achieved certain goals, you can help them celebrate. So really my work is focusing on looking at, or my studies and my research is looking at a model for engagement for conservation, but then combining that stakeholder selection as well as ecosystem health and government, and how they can come together by finding the right engagement strategies that is suitable for that particular community, making it a two-way sort of conversation other than just delivering of information and providing a workshop here or there, but really having a two-way flow where that community knowledge is being used within that strategic planning, but also finding tools to get the right participation levels. So not just you know, particular ways of including certain parts of your community, but also looking at including everyone, people that might not be the loudest voice within a community, but have an opinion, and get everyone involved. And I think I raised one of the polling questions of whether you feel that youth gets involved in, you know, that community engagement. In many places where I work, they're often overlooked. And I think that's where you know, the caring really starts, because when we are creating a passion and a love for that particular environment from the ground up, from our children, the next generation, that's how you can instill, you know, that management, that successful management at a later stage. And then we're thinking about activities that suit different types of stakeholders. That's how you can engage them successfully. So that's really the point that I wanted to raise there.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to remind you, 20 seconds left, but right on time. Thank you. Basically, what we picked up from a couple of last slide that Maggie also presented is that the way that community can be involved to manage landscape sustainably needs to be structurally thought as well. It cannot be an add-on. It has to be part of the process since the beginning, and it has to be part of the process until the end. Now we'd like to actually welcome our final speaker of today. After that, we can directly go to the discussion session. Again, reminding all of you to please use the Q&A box. We'd like to actually welcome Pak Ijudin. Pak Bang Izudin is coming from Aceh Tamiang, and he is one of the lead champion in terms of community engagement, already focusing on the landscape for maybe more than a decade. And he is also bringing in expertise coming from the Faculty of Agriculture in Syah Kuala University in Banda Aceh. And he became the head of agricultural development in Aceh Tamiang from the perspective of Chamber of Commerce and Industry, but shifted to Kempra, one of the civil society organization focusing on mangrove in Pantai Timur Aceh, and also now very active to become the transition team of the Center of Sustainable Agriculture Excellence in Aceh Tamiang. What is the center? How does that correlate with the position of community management within the area? We'd like to actually give the floor to Bang Ijudin. Bang Ijudin, silakan, waktunya sama 7 menit. Nanti saya akan ingatkan di menit kedua, Bapak dan Ibu masih bisa mengakses. So those of you that want to access the English version of the translation, now you can shift to the English channel because Pak Ijudin is going to speak in Bahasa Indonesia. Silakan Bang Ijudin.
Baik, terima kasih. Jadi sebelum saya berbicara tentang PUPR, saya ingin mendefinisikan dulu tentang pengelolaan lanskap berbasis komunitas dalam perspektif Aceh Tamiang. Jadi sebenarnya pengelolaan lanskap berkelanjutan di Aceh Tamiang ini adalah sebuah proses harmonisasi antara kepentingan untuk meningkatkan kesejahteraan masyarakat dengan kepentingan perlindungan hutan dan kawasan daerah aliran sungai. Karena sebagian besar hutan yang ada di Aceh Tamiang ini identik dengan kawasan ekosistem loser yang merupakan paru-paru dunia yang menjadi perhatian bagi seluruh masyarakat di dunia ini. Dan kemudian juga bahwa 80% dari wilayah dan penduduk di Aceh Tamiang ini hidup dan bergantung kepada kawasan daerah aliran sungai. Jadi kedua hal ini sangat berkaitan karena hampir keseluruhan bisnis yang melibatkan pengelolaan sumber daya alam itu pasti akan bersentuhan, kalau tidak dengan hutan kawasan ekosistem loser, pasti akan bersentuhan dengan daerah aliran sungai. Ketika kedua elemen ini terganggu, maka impact-nya pasti akan dirasakan oleh masyarakat. Penurunan taraf hidup, penurunan kualitas sumber daya dan sebagainya pasti akan ke sana. Sebagai contoh misalnya, ketika hutan rusak, maka yang muncul adalah banjir, yang muncul adalah kekeringan, yang pada akhirnya akan menghancurkan investasi dan sumber pencarian dari masyarakat. Jadi ini yang merupakan dasar pemikiran kita. Makanya kita mendefinisikan pengelolaan landscape berkelanjutan di Aceh Tamiang itu harus dihubungkan dengan kedua hal ini. Jadi ini yang satu hal lagi yang menjadi pertimbangan kita adalah bahwa ada 50.000 hektar kebun kelapa sawit di Aceh Tamiang, 60% adalah corporate, 40% adalah masyarakat yang melibatkan lebih dari 10.000-an kepala keluarga, dan bisnis ini berada di seputaran kedua elemen ini gitu. Jadi ketika proses kegiatan bisnis atau kelapa sawit ini tidak dilaksanakan secara berkelanjutan, maka dikhawatirkan bahwa impact negatifnya pasti akan tetap mempengaruhi kepada kedua hal ini. Deforestasi, perambahan hutan, penurunan kualitas air, penurunan kualitas das dan sebagainya pasti akan berhubungan sekali dengan kegiatan aktivitas bisnis ini. Gitu. Nah, inilah yang menjadi pemikiran kenapa kemudian kita berpikir bahwa harus ada sebuah konsep tentang PUPL atau program pengembangan perkebunan berkelanjutan di Aceh Tamiang. Nah, pada awalnya kami sebagai orang-orang komunitas ini, posisi kami selalu berhadapan-hadapan dengan pemerintah. Artinya kita selalu menjadi kontrol sosial, kita selalu menentang kebijakan-kebijakan pemerintah. Tapi kemudian 2-3 tahun terakhir ini ketika kawan-kawan dari NGO, dari IDH, dari Forum Konservasi Loser, kemudian dari LTKL sendiri dan juga dari Earthworm yang kemudian menggambarkan kepada kami sebuah konsep bagaimana bekerja secara kolaboratif untuk memikirkan pembangunan berkelanjutan berbasis landscape di Aceh Tamiang, maka kami kemudian melakukan reposisi, dan kami sekarang berdampingan dengan pemerintah. Dan inilah pemikiran awal sehingga muncul pusat unggulan perkebunan lestari ini. Dasar pemikiran seperti ini. Lalu ketika kegiatan ini kita mulai jalankan, konsep kolaboratif ini kemudian melahirkan sebuah forum yang diinisiasi oleh pihak-pihak ini dari pemerintahan dan juga dari pemerintahan juga dari stakeholder lainnya. Muncullah sebuah forum yang namanya forum Pusat Unggulan Perkebunan Lestari yang hari ini sudah terbentuk di Aceh Tamiang. Jadi kita adalah sebuah entitas hari ini yang merupakan presentasi dari multi stakeholder dari pemerintah, dari kemudian juga dari unsur-unsur pemerintahan lain untuk satu tujuan bagaimana cara membangun sebuah landscape yang berkelanjutan. Nah ini hari ini problem kita mungkin model-model entitas seperti ini sudah banyak dibangun di kabupaten-kabupaten lain, tapi selalu gagal. Kenapa gagal? Karena organisasinya terlalu gemuk, gitu, terlalu besar, gitu. Maka kemudian kita khusus di PUPL ini kemudian memikirkan sebuah rancangan entitas yang lebih ramping. Makanya hari ini Pusat Unggulan Perkebunan Lestari Aceh Tamiang ini kita dijalankan oleh sebuah board, gitu, sebuah board yang terdiri dari 5 orang perwakilan. Dan kami sekarang berjalan sebagaimana layaknya sebuah komunitas, sebagaimana layaknya sebuah NGO bekerja, gitu. Jadi Pusat Unggulan Perkebunan Lestari ini kemudian bekerja yang dikomandoi dan digawangi oleh 5 orang perwakilan dari forum ini. Nah ini yang menjadi konsep dasar menjalankan kegiatan-kegiatan Pusat Unggulan Perkebunan Lestari ini di Aceh Tamiang. Nah ini menjadi sebuah model. Di Indonesia belum ada yang seperti ini. Jadi kita mirip seperti sebuah NGO, tapi kita ini adalah bagian dari entitasnya pemerintah, bagian dari perpanjangan tangannya pemerintah, di mana ada orang pemerintah dan non pemerintah yang ada di dalam lembaga kita ini. Nah kemudian bicara tentang PUPL, apa yang menjadi target PUPL kita di sini? Yang pertama kita menargetkan ada 3 hal yang menjadi target utama dalam kegiatan PUPL kita. Yang pertama adalah kita mau menjadikan PUPL menjadi sebuah pusat data informasi yang terkait dengan perkebunan, pertanian, dan dengan konsep yang berkelanjutan. Dan kemudian
Bang Izudin mengingatkan 2 menit lagi ya.
Baik. Kemudian kita menjadikan PUPL ini menjadi sebuah pusat untuk mengembangkan investasi perkebunan yang berkelanjutan dan kemudian menjadi sebuah pusat inovasi. Hari ini, alhamdulillah kita dari PUPL sudah menjalankan beberapa program penting yang menyangkut dengan kegiatan menuju sustainability. Kita dibiayai oleh IDH dan kita dibiayai oleh PepsiCo hari ini untuk menjalankan sebuah program VSA namanya Verified Sourcing Area, di mana kita menargetkan bahwa ada keseimbangan kegiatan bisnis berkelanjutan di sini, di mana ada proteksi terhadap hutan di sini, memastikan bahwa petani menjalankan kegiatan bisnisnya secara berkelanjutan, dan yang ketiga ada kepastian hukum terhadap penguasaan lahan yang sebagian besar memang berada di pinggiran hutan ini. Nah, kegiatan ini kita sebut dengan istilahnya PPI Compact, di mana target kita adalah target proteksinya ada untuk perlindungan hutan, target produksinya ada untuk peningkatan produksi dan penghasilan masyarakat, dan kemudian inklusinya gitu. Jadi program ini kita menargetkan pada tahun ini menjalankan untuk 500 petani, dan direncanakan tahun depan dengan dukungan dari Unilever, kita akan menjalankan program ini dengan skala yang lebih luas, skala lebih sekitar 1.500 petani. Nah, ini adalah sebuah proyek prestisius sebetulnya. Tapi kami mengatakan bahwa untuk menjadikan Kabupaten Aceh Tamiang menjadi sebuah landscape berkelanjutan yang terverifikasi, yang artinya nanti buyer akan bisa membeli produk tanpa harus khawatir bahwa mereka akan dihajar oleh komunitas-komunitas karena dianggap membeli produk yang kotor. Nah ini kita berharap barangkali mungkin tahun-tahun berikutnya akan ada lagi PepsiCo lain, akan ada lagi Unilever lain, akan ada lagi IDH lain, LTK lain yang datang kemarin untuk membantu kami untuk menyiapkan ini, sehingga dalam 2-3 tahun ke depan distrik Aceh Tamiang adalah daerah yang terverifikasi dan siap menghasilkan produk berkelanjutan. Nah, itu harapan kami Mbak Gita dari yang jauh ini. Terima kasih.
Oke, pas banget nih. Waktu habis pas selesai. Terima kasih banyak Pak Ijudin. So ladies and gentlemen, it was my mistake. Actually, the translation was already provided in the chat box. So if you missed it, you can just scroll through the chat box and all of the presentation from Bang Izudin are already translated there by Ms. Griselda. So thank you for all of the panelists. Now that everybody have spoken, we try to be also as equal as possible. Everybody got 7 minutes. So we can answer more questions. We'll go to the Q&A session, and we already got around 16 different questions. I will try to choose the ones that are most popular, so the ones with the most thumbs up. So this first question got 10 thumbs up, actually. So I will actually ask a couple of the panelists to do so, to answer this one. Basically, it goes back to the pandemic. All of the different examples that have been shared already mentioned situation that happened before COVID-19 hits. I asked the same question to Pak Wiratno before, but I'd like to ask it again to all of the panelists. What do you think is going to be the biggest shift in behavioral in behavior, specifically looking at how community is participating in landscape management? Do you want to start, Maggie?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's different for where you are located. I think within Australia, I've seen that people are really coming together in regards to wanting to help the environment, because this is connected to the environment, and feel that changing behaviours and looking after the environment would be beneficial to themselves. Finding connections where environmental change is benefiting their own lives is more prevalent at the moment, and how it has affected their own health. And so behaviours of looking after local environments and local stewardship, I think it's really come to surface. And so, yeah, that I think has become really prevalent. People have been, after being locked down, and still people are being in lockdown, they can't wait to get out there and contribute to their local environment, or get involved in more creating a more positive local area that's healthy. So I think there is also a positive behaviour towards it. Negatively, there would be probably a change in behaviour towards certain wildlife. Wildlife trade, we talked about it in other seminars, for example, is seeing a change. Maybe certain traditions will change in regards to that as well. Traditional medicine. Yeah, definitely those kinds of environmental behaviour.
Yeah, so you're quite positive or optimist that this is going to be something that's retained even after the pandemic. Yeah,
I think using the momentum as we have, with an understanding that there is a connection with the pressures on local environment and our own health. If we use that momentum right now, we can create that awareness as well as that care in order to look after it a bit better.
Okay, noted, Maggie. Pa Monty, do you want to add on to that in terms of whether this behavior change for good is going to stay and remain like that even after the pandemic is over, hopefully soon?
Yeah, in some parts, yes. It depends on the situation that the committees have, because I'm using the information data from Aman Aliansi Masyarakat Adat Nusantara, the indigenous peoples archipelago in Indonesia. So they see that there are 3 types of committees that in the rural committees. Those who basically completely possessed, they don't have anything. They're the one who suffered so much, the most. They are, they cannot get, depends on others for food. And those who are somewhat dispossessed but become kind of have incomes from labor wage, they depends on money, so they have to find other ways to get food. So, and while those who are still somewhat can grow their own rice or and other vegetables, they're more secured in some way. So it depends on where they are and what's the conditions that they are having. The ones that have, the most vulnerable ones may, go for somewhat, what we call forest destruction, but then the problem is that they are in the very, very vulnerable position. So I think we need to have, to address this issue based on these different, categories. So there may be other types of categories that we have to take, into account. So I think it's important for us to really see how, how they are, and then and so we can decide what kind of intervention that we can, give to them. Yeah. That's from me. Thank you.
And so it's very specific to their sort of needs and regional specificity as well. Yeah, Pak. Yeah.
Yes.
Noted. Pak Wiratno, if we still have you, do you want to add on to any of that, Pak? Are you optimistic that the good behavior will stay even after the pandemic is over, or are we just going to go back to our old way? Hello, Pak, can you hear me?
What is the question? I missed it.
Yeah, sorry. So the question was, and it's from...
Yeah. What is the question?
Yeah, okay, Pak. The pandemic has changed individuals' behavior. Whilst in the old normal, you could already see bad behavior. Now people are turning into better ones. Do you think those behavior will change post-pandemic? Any suggestion on improving pro-environmental behavior in the community after pandemic is over?
Yeah. In case of, for instance, in case of tourism, for instance, we have limit the number of visitor, for instance, very limit. Started from 10% from the normal. We have to have a new, distance, use the masker and hand sanitizer, and I think we have to we have to force the discipline. There is no other answer, only discipline and the discipline. Very important to have continuous monitoring on at the community level. I think that is the way we do, especially in the case of, for instance, in the tourism in national park.
Noted, Pak.
Itu, Mbak.
Ya, Pak. Ini ada pertanyaan berikutnya buat
Yeah.
Bapak juga nih, Pak. So the next question is also for you. Basically, the question revolves around dari Bu Sri Endang Sukarsih. Your presentation and Pak Monty's presentation focus a lot on community and indigenous people and the maps. But right now, there is no real acknowledgement to indigenous community rights maps, specifically under the new law of indigenous community. What do you think should happen?
Yeah, and in national park there is a 1.8 million hectare proposed indigenous community area hutan adat from PRWA, yeah, and the process of legalizing the hutan adat is coming from the DG of Hutan Sosial, Pak Bambang, not in my side. And we have a policy on the traditional zone or block. Yeah, traditional zone in the national park, meaning that the zone, the area of the park can be used and managed by the
Hello, Pak. Did we lost you? Pak Wiratno? Are you still there? Okay, I think we lost Pak Wiratno. Halo, Pak Wiratno? Okay. I think we lost Pak Wiratno. Should we just go to, ini pertanyaannya untuk Pak Mont. Okay, Bapak is back. Bapak tadi hilang. We lost you for the last 30 seconds. Ada yang mau dilanjutkan, Pak?
Yeah, we have gazetted 2.4 million of traditional zones hectare ya, 2.4 million hectare of traditional zone that can be managed by local community and also traditional adat community. Yeah, before they legalize for their hutan adat. Itu Mbak.
Okay, Pak. So basically, the recommendation is to focus on that part. Yeah.
And also I have new policy on kemitraan konservasi. Local people who depend.
Okay. I think the connection is a bit patchy with Bapak there. Can we go to Bang Ijudin for the next question?
That is like hutan sosial, Mbak, like hutan sosial.
Oke, Pak. Tadi agak hilang sedikit di tengah. Nanti mungkin paparan yang lengkapnya bisa kita share juga. Jadi tadi, so a couple of points that Bapak mentioned was the gazetted territory for indigenous community, and the second one is basically how to make use of the new kemitraan or the new partnership scheme to also empower the local community on the ground to partner with other stakeholders. Something like that, ya Pak? Okay, we'd like to actually ask the next question. Bang Ijudin, ini pertanyaan berikutnya untuk Abang nih ya. Dari sisi, tadi kan disebutkan bahwa Kempra sendiri yang tadinya sangat bertentangan dengan pemerintah begitu ya, 2-3 tahun belakangan itu ambil posisi beda dan akhirnya memilih untuk berkolaborasi. Nah ini ada pertanyaan dari Pak Bambang Riyadi Sutrisno. Bagaimana sih sebetulnya yang dimaksud dengan penguatan organisasi masyarakat? Kadang-kadang organisasi masyarakat yang lemah itu malah disingkirkan dan sumber dayanya dihabiskan supaya ada organisasi masyarakat lain yang akan menggantikan posisinya makin besar, makin kuat begitu. Nah ini kira-kira kalau dari pengalamannya Bang Izudin sendiri, apakah memang betul terjadinya banyaknya seperti ini?
Dalam konteks kita di Tayang sebenarnya enggak gitu. Ada satu contoh penguatan organisasi kemasyarakatan yang kita anggap fenomenal sekali di Tamyang, yaitu apa yang dilakukan oleh Forum Konservasi Loser dalam proses restorasi di kawasan perbatasan, di kawasan Tenggulun untuk melakukan restorasi loser, di mana basisnya adalah penguatan masyarakat. Masyarakat yang kemarin menjadi perambah, menjadi penebang hutan dan sebagainya dikoordinir dengan baik, dibentuk kelembagaannya, lalu kemudian dibangun, dibimbing mereka sehingga bisa beralih dari kemarin sebagai penghancur hutan, perusak hutan menjadi orang yang kemudian menjadi penyelamat dan sekaligus bisa memanfaatkan hasil hutan itu tanpa harus menebang kayu. Dan itu sudah sangat berhasil. Saya kira ini salah satu contoh bagaimana penguatan kelembagaan masyarakat itu bisa dilakukan. Yang penting niat baik itu Mbak sebenarnya gitu kan. Upaya-upaya seperti itu sudah pasti ada. Karena bisnis dengan ini kan akan selalu berhadapan. Mereka akan melihat celah. Tapi ketika upaya-upaya yang dilakukan FKN bisa dilakukan secara lebih luas, saya yakin itu akan bisa dilakukan. Hari ini baru satu kecamatan. Nah, kami berharap akan ada forum konservasi loser lain, FKL lain yang mau melakukan kegiatan di distrik lain. Jadi kemudian ini kan bisa menjadi masif dan bisa menjadi benteng kita gitu. Saya yakin itu berhasil gitu. Terima kasih.
Siap, terima kasih Bang Izudin. Mungkin ke Pak Monty, we'll go to Pak Monty. Actually, the same question, Pak. So for you, what does empowering local community means? And whether there's actually competition between community organizations so that one is competing with another, and ended up sort of instead of collaborating, they actually have conflict over territories. Pak Monty?
Ya, oke, thank you. Ya mungkin saya pakai bahasa Indonesia saja ya karena.
Siap, silakan Pak.
Ya, karena ini memang agak gampang-gampang sulit menjawabnya ya, karena ini persoalan sudah panjang, nggak mudah. Ini persoalan yang sejak zaman Soeharto muncul. Jadi kita nggak bisa menyelesaikannya dalam waktu sekejap. Ini persoalan yang sangat berdasar, sangat sistematik. Ada persoalan kebijakan yang begitu rumit, yang tidak tidak mudah diatasi, dan juga ini sementara persoalan sudah makin mendalam. Jadi memang yang jelas kita jangan pesimis, itu yang saya ingin sampaikan. Kita harus tetap optimis dan tetap berusaha. Saya dengan segala keterbatasan saya tetap berusaha, biarpun kecil, tapi kita coba usahakan untuk ada perubahan. Mau dalam satu desa, paling sedikit kita berubah sesuatu. Karena kalau kita menunggu sampai perubahan yang besar begitu terlalu lama akan terjadi. Memang perubahan besar itu perlu sekali dan sangat mendasar untuk dilakukan. Tapi kalau kita menunggu terus tanpa ada yang berubah, kita akan berubah. Jadi bagaimana menurut saya adalah dengan tindakan-tindakan kecil yang ada, kita berusaha melakukan penguatan, masyarakat akan lebih bisa punya merasa diri mampu. Karena sekarang ini banyak masyarakat merasa dirinya begitu lemah, tidak punya kekuatan, akhirnya mereka tidak berusaha untuk melakukan sesuatu. Nah, jadi kita bagaimana mendorong mereka untuk bisa berbuat sesuatu, bahwa mereka pun bisa dengan segala keterbatasannya mereka bisa hidup. Memang persoalan di daerah pedesaan, persoalan agraria, persoalan hak kepemilikan atau keamanan atas lahan itu menjadi hal yang sangat penting. Namanya juga petani perlu tanah. Nah, tinggal bagaimana memang ada skema-skema yang harus dibuat untuk bisa lebih baik. Memang saya tahu pemerintahan Joko Widodo sudah mempunyai dengan reforma agraria dan perhutanan sosial. Tapi juga banyak yang melakukan kritik bahwa itu tidak cukup. Dengan segala keterbatasannya, coba kita saja pakai apa yang ada, dengan terus perbaiki dan terus kita perlihatkan bahwa ada kelemahan-kelemahan. Karena kalau kita terus-menerus memperlihatkan bahwa ini tidak cukup, tapi terus masyarakat akhirnya tetap kelaparan, nanti kita jadi masalah akan menjadi lebih luas. Itu mungkin sementara secara umum.
Ya,
mungkin ada beberapa pertanyaan lagi yang bisa terjawab.
Mas Monty, iya. Pak Monty, kita mungkin akan coba 2-3 lagi. Ini ada yang mirip-mirip nih ya. Saya mau kelompokkan saja. Beberapa orang menanyakan, so a couple of questions are very much focused on ecotourism. There's like 4 or 5 different questions on ecotourism. So I'd like all of the panelists, semua panelis mudah-mudahan bisa menjawab pertanyaan ini. Basically, number 1, is ecotourism the right idea? Is it something that is worth fighting for the community as a sustainable business model, especially during the pandemic, that a lot of instances show how vulnerable the sector is. Once you have no tourists, this is something that automatically you lose the income. And secondly, if you keep having this debate between what is enough coming from the community additional income or existing income, how can you compete the type of income you'll get from something like ecotourism in comparison to something that can be offered in agricultural sector? So this always become the debate on the ground. How can you prove that by taking care of the forest or the peat and other ecosystem and offering ecotourism service, you will end up with the same benefit in terms of income? This is a question to all of the panelists. I don't know. Do you want to start, Maggie?
Sure. I think when we're looking at ecotourism, and I think there was obviously a seminar on ecotourism last week, but I think we need to look at what ecotourism actually means and what that includes. You have domestic ecotourism, you have international ecotourism, you have certain types of expectations when you are a tourist and you want to visit a certain community, the facilities that are available to you, and you know, you've got to have accommodation, you've got to have certain expectations when you're there and spending your money. So is the community ready to take on increased numbers of visitors to their community? Is it a fair distribution of you know, the income of tourism to the entire community? Does everyone get involved? If you have international tourists, who is going to take on, you know, their guidance or their needs? Do people speak English? Who's going to communicate? There's so many questions we need to take on board when we're talking tourism, which can become quite complicated in terms of facilitating this. I do think we need to look at more of a platform in terms of ecosystem services. What types of services does our ecosystem provide to the community? And that one of them might be ecotourism, but there may be other things like cultural services, such as spiritual services and things that where the community derives certain benefits from, which may not be monetary, but may have other benefits as well, may be beneficial for health. You know, certain plants might have medicinal purposes for our community as well, which may not be a monetary benefit, but it may have other benefits that cannot be expressed in money. So mapping out what types of benefits we derive from the ecosystem, cultural, economical, you know, health-wise, then we can decide what are the best resources we would put towards, you know, recovering from this pandemic, or recovering, helping to recover a community that's come out of a pandemic as well.
Thank you. Pak Wiratno, do you want to jump in on that?
I have an experience on community-based ecotourism, at least in Tangkahan and Loser.
Tangkahan, yeah.
Ecotourism not in there. Ecotourism is not only about making money from the forest, but also there is a local awareness before there are illegal loggers. Almost all the community there, and step by step we work with them and start in 2000, and I worked there in 2005 until 2007. Now they manage the part of the park for the object of ecotourism with the elephant safari, elephant patrol. And in my opinion, community-based ecotourism is one of the solutions. They said that we will not cutting the trees to get the money, and that is from ecotourism. The important thing is how to work, to stay with them very closely, and what we call it live-in and pendampingan mentorship with the local, and building trust. Building trust is very, very important with the local community. And I prove it. Tangkahan is already almost 19 years. They survive, saving the forest, saving the park, the World Heritage, and they get that money from.
Yeah. Any tips, Pak, during the pandemic when the tourism sort of died down a little bit in Tangkahan? How do they survive? How do they get by?
Yeah, they realize that they have to stop it for a while. That they realize that the nature needs a rest.
Yeah.
And we cannot use nature every day without stopping or taking a rest for a while. So they realize that. I think we realize that also.
Oke. Thank you, Pak. Bang Ijudin, apakah ada pendapat untuk pertanyaan yang ini? Dari sisi kalau tentang pendapatan alternatif begitu ya, pertanyaannya adalah apakah betul ada alternatif lain yang lebih baik daripada yang bisa ditawarkan di sektor-sektor seperti agriculture, misalnya turisme. Kalau dari pendapat Bang Ijudin bagaimana? Nanti saya ke Pak Monty, kemudian ada satu pertanyaan dari YouTube, dan kita tutup balik ke Mbak Lia. Silakan Bang Ijudin.
Kaitan lain ada, artinya di pinggiran-pinggiran hutan hari ini kita melihat bahwa potensi wisata kita itu kan sangat besar. Cuman yang menjadi problem kita hari ini adalah barangkali mungkin untuk skala ekonomi itu masih belum bisa sepenuhnya masyarakat gantung pada industri pariwisata itu. Pasti butuh panjang waktu untuk itu. Gitu. Jadi makanya kita berkonsentrasi kepada bagaimana meningkatkan pendapatan petani di pinggiran hutan dengan tetap mempertahankan jumlah luasan yang ada, tapi meningkatkan produktivitas mereka. Itu yang kita lakukan hari ini di PUPR. Karena kita pikir bahwa kalau mereka punya produktivitas rendah, ujung-ujungnya niatnya pasti akan memperluas lahan. Kalau sudah memperluas lahan, apapun ceritanya tinggal lusur yang bisa dirambah hari ini. Gitu. Nah, jadi semuanya diupayakan, pariwisatanya kita upayakan, produk lokalnya juga sedang kita perjuangkan bersama-sama dengan LTKL ya, supaya kita bisa mampu memasarkan produk lokal pada market yang lebih luas. Kemudian peningkatan kapasitas petani, peningkatan produktivitas petani juga sedang kita upayakan. Tujuannya itu saja, agar kita semua bisa memproteksi dan mengurangi niat masyarakat untuk memperluas lahan, karena itulah ancaman satu-satunya hari ini. Kalau untuk korporat, karena kita sudah ada moratorium sawit.
Siap, berarti kombinasi antara peraturan dan betul-betul melihat juga kalaupun kita mau memasuki sektor seperti turisme, maka sektor lain seperti perkebunan juga tetap harus menjadi intervensi ya, terutama untuk peningkatan produktivitasnya, supaya tidak ada yang berkompetisi begitu ya. Terakhir ini untuk Pak Monty, ada pendapat di pertanyaan ini? Kalau tidak, sekalian saya mau masuk ke pertanyaan terakhir dari YouTube nih. Halo teman-teman yang bergabung dari YouTube, ada pertanyaan yang akan dijawab juga. Pak Monty gimana Pak?
Ya, cuman sedikit aja saja, Mbak.
Ya, Pak.
Apa namanya, urusan pemberdayaan ini atau perusahaan ekonomi ini kecenderungan ada bertumpu pada satu jenis kegiatan ekonomi. Kayak di Kalbar itu sekarang yang problem misalnya hanya bertumpu pada sawit atau bertumpu pada karet. Nah, kalau saat ekonomi lagi parah, jadi kondisi gonjang sama dengan ekoturisme. Jadi mungkin ekoturisme mungkin salah satu dengan segala macam yang harus diperbaiki ya. Tapi juga jangan terlalu bergantung pada satu macam komoditi, itu akan membahayakan. Di zaman sekarang ini pasar berubah dengan cepat. Jadi sekali pengaruh pasar berubah cepat, itu ekonomi bisa goyah di masyarakat. Jadi perlu ada diversifikasi usaha yang harus dilakukan. Jadi supaya jangan terlalu tergantung, dan sekali kondisi tidak kondusif, ekonomi goncang, nah itu masyarakat bisa kerepotan untuk mengatasinya. Itu saja mungkin.
Siap. Jadi berarti diversifikasi dari penghasilan or diversifying your income source is actually the way to go from Pak Monty. Last, and this is going to be the closing statement of everyone. I know we have Prof. Caitlin here, so if you want, you can also chime in the closing one. But the last question to you is coming from YouTube, and the question revolves around how do you make sure that community has a role in synergizing different types of regulatory framework coming from the national to subnational level? So how can you become, or you help community to become active citizen and contributing to the actual policy making? We'll start from Pak Monty actually. We'll go Pak Monty, then to Bang Ijudin, then to Maggie, then to Pak Wiratno and Prof. Caitlin at the end.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I'm using engage research. At least for researchers, for scholars, you have to be to become the advocates for the interest of the public or interest of the marginalized group. So by doing so, you're kind of helping out, to have a better world. And as you see that, and also many people are complaining that the business are too strong and the government is too strong, and then the communities are become weaker and weaker in terms of how they can control their own lives. So what I'm trying to say is just take action. Whatever you can get, the small, just within your neighborhood, you can start with it. So just take action. Don't wait until it's too late. So just take action, whatever you can get, and that's all.
Thank you. Just take action. Pak Wiratno, bagaimana nih caranya supaya masyarakat bisa jadi lebih aktif dari proses pembuatan kebijakan sendiri?
The answer is we have to work at the local level. We have to stay and working with the local community. That's the key point. Yeah, but it is not enough. Not only ecotourism, but also non-timber forest product, environmental services. Even in Ciremai National Park, we have already a research on the bioprospecting, on microbe for better healthy farming. And lastly, I have sent to the committee. I send this in English. There are 10 new ways of working on. So please do read and give a comment. Thank you, Mbak Ita.
Okay, thank you, Pak Wiratno. So Maggie, do you have any thoughts on active citizenship on policy making? Last comment before we end.
Yeah, I think it's to do a lot with better communication and better listening to each other. I think when sort of governmental bodies are able to communicate at better at a local level instead of more that top-down approach where communities just have to go along with what is being decided, and where communities have a better understanding where a policy is coming from and sort of the external factors and how a policy is being developed. And how and where expectations are measured towards that as well. I think when those types of things are communicated better to each other and people are listening more on what the needs are, I think you get a long way with that.
Thank you, Bang Ijudin. Supaya aktif masyarakat di pembuatan kebijakan.
Ya, kalau saya mikir yang terpenting itu adalah masyarakat itu libatkan diri secara langsung, jangan memposisikan lagi diri berhadapan dengan pemerintah. Itu konsepnya. Jadi kita libatkan diri sebagai perencana, kita libatkan diri sebagai aktor pelaksana, kita libatkan diri sebagai aktor pengawas di situ. Nah, ini yang harus dilakukan masyarakat ini. Jangan lagi memposisikan diri berhadapan dengan pemerintah. Nah, untuk pemerintahnya sendiri, tolong beri ruang yang cukup, yang lebih luas, lebih cukup untuk kita komunitas untuk bisa masuk dan mengambil peran itu. Nah, jadi gabungan dari kedua konsep itu, dan alhamdulillah saya kira pemerintah Citamai akan sudah memberikan ruang yang sudah sangat cukup untuk kami untuk berperan. Tinggal lagi mungkin masih ada beberapa komunitas di luar kami ini yang mungkin masih belum bersedia gabung atau masih belum mau merubah mindsetnya terhadap posisi pemerintah dan komunitas di masyarakat ini. Saya kira itu, Mbak.
Siap, terima kasih Bang Ijudin. Prof. Caitlin, you want to chime in one sentence on how to better be an active citizen in terms of policy making? Do you want to chime in or not? Okay. Yeah?
Sorry, I just needed to get the button right.
Right.
Thank you, Geeta. I think all of the answers have been spot on. I guess if I could add one thing, I think we all have to, I really like that point about our mindset. I think number one, we need to change our mindsets to be about solving problems together, not necessarily resisting each other, but thinking about how do we collaborate to solve problems. We need governments to do to function in certain ways, but governments also need communities, and they need to listen to what's important to community. One of the things I think we can do a lot better as well is to think, and I say this from an Australian perspective, to think about how we can learn again from our Indigenous communities at a very local level, how we can draw on their local knowledge and traditional wisdom and really understand the connection that they have to place as we think about contemporary solutions to some of our big problems.
So thank you for that. So reminding us to go back to our roots, so to speak. Thank you for all of the panelists. I'm giving you a live appreciation. Thank you for the participants. Before I move to Mbak Lia, there's just one closing statement from my side, is the word together. So I'll break it down into pieces for my conclusion. The T stands for the time is now. The O stands for one element cannot solve everything. The G stands for getting data is important, but getting culture sensitive is even more. The E stands for economic of scale is of course the key. The T stands for talking is strong, but listening is half winning. The H stands for human culture needs to be the center of the thoughts. The E stands for expertise needs to be cross-sectoral. And the R stands for research, if designed better, can be connected between top-down and bottom-up approach with community at the center. So that's the conclusion from my side. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I give the floor back to Mbak Leah.
Thank you
Thank
very much,
you.
Gita. Please give a round of applause for Mbak Gita. Ladies and gentlemen, this is great. So thank you so much. And then also all the panelists. It was great insight, great discussion. And then we can do it in the time efficient manner. And then also for the participants who stay until the end of the session, it's great. We're not the end yet. We still have to reveal the result of the poll. So for those of you who haven't voted, we have 4 people who haven't cast their vote or fill in the polling. We're waiting so that we can reveal the result. All right, I think it's end, and then I'll end it and then share the result. Okay, so can anyone see the result? If not, then
Yeah, it's here.
Yeah, great. I'll check whether in YouTube people can see. If not, then I've just copy and paste several of them into my screen, into PowerPoint. So I'll just try to share it here, share my screen. Can anyone see my screen now? All right, so here we go. So there's a slightly different result because I copy pasted like a few minutes ago, but I'll try to read the one that is in the actual poll live right now. So the result is for the first question: which sector do you most identify yourself with? 28% from the national government, 10% local government, 8% private sectors, 48% academia, so this is the majority, 10% from NGOs, 10% from community, and then 2% from the media. And question number 2, do you think there is enough opportunity for youth aged 13 to 21 years old to interact with policymakers on their concerns for the environment? 67% say yes, and 35% say no. Question number 3, oh, hold on. Yeah, all right. So now question number 3, do you have any experience working with a rural community? 79% say yes, and 24% say no. That's quite a lot, 79%. That's great. So number 4, if yes, what roles did or do you have in such a work or research? 44% field researcher. Oh, wow, we have a lot of field researchers here. 26% facilitator, 16% project or task manager, and 5% extension worker, and 3% CSR officer, 6% government office manager, and 34% others. Great. Question number 5 and the last one. What do you plan to do after attending this webinar? 47% said we'll learn more on the community issues, so that's great. 29% said make a new program or research on rural communities in sustainable landscape management, and 23% find ways to get involved in community empowerment programs, and 1% do nothing. So this is, the result is from the total participant is 496 person. So I think that's great number for a polling. So maybe Pak Albertus or Maggie can use this for initial research purpose. It's great. So thank you very much again for all. And for those of you who asked for materials for the presentations, you can download it in our Facebook page group. It's called Institute for Sustainable Earth and Resources, Universitas Indonesia. There, Handika, I believe, already put the link on the Google Drive for there, so you can download the material there. And then also, for those of you who asked for certificate, Handika is now sharing the screen to inform you how to do it. So you have to fill in that form in the time frame that is given right now. So please don't be late, because otherwise we won't proceed the certificates. And then for those of you who want to get some updates of the next webinars event, please stay tuned to our Facebook page, Griffith Asia Institute, and then also the Institute for Sustainable Earth and Resources. There we can inform you of the latest webinar. For the next week, we are going to move to the next big topic. So this is the fourth or the last webinar for the topic for sustainable landscape management. I would also like to thank you, Prof. Kathleen and Prof. Yatna, and also Maggie Moormans, who help in planning this, and obviously for LTKL as well. So that they have been such a great partner in this. So for next week, we are moving on to the next topic, which is the adaptation in small islands, or how to increase resilience, community resilience in the small islands in Eastern Indonesia. So ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned to our webinar. I think Handika will also send some emails of information for our next webinar, so stay tuned for that. And thank you very much for staying until in the end. I'll check whether Prof. Yatna is still here. If yes, I would like him to say a few words, or maybe not. All right, so let's just keep Pak Yatna for the next webinars. So again, thank you.
He's there, Malia. Pak Yatna just popped up in the screen.
There you go.
Okay.
Please.
Thank you, Malia. Thank you, everybody. First of all, thank you for Prof. Kathleen for introduction. And also Pak Wiratno, of course, Director General for CAIPSDCC. Dr. Hadi Pramono, our center, in the center. Also Pak Izzuddin. And of course, let me see that.
In the screen, ya Pak. In the
yeah. Of course,
Pak Wiratno.
Pak Wiratno is already, I guess, that one. Maggie, yeah, Maggie. Thank you, Maggie, for also contribution. And of course, our moderator, Mbak Gita Sarani, for very eloquently switching from English and Bahasa. This is very good. And don't forget that this is part of the partnership. Don't forget that also SDG 17 is partnership. So it is very important to have not only communities, but also, as mentioned by Pak Wiratno, the government also very concerned about this community around the parks, all in the forests and the around the coastal area and many others. Thank you. So again, I think welcome to next webinar, as already mentioned by Balia. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Yatna. So participants, if you have any difficulties in accessing the link, please let us know in the chat box. And please, Handika, try to fix that one out before we close the registration form. And then for the last one, I would like to ask all participants, all panelists to show their video. We're going to have a group picture. So it is important, even though it's online, you know. So, and Handika, could you please stop the screen sharing for a while, because we're going to have the picture taken. So, all right. Okay. So this is for report good. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yay. All right, it's done. So again, thank you very much. And then see you in the next webinar. Bye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Thank you.
wabarakatuh. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Terima kasih Mbak Gita, Mbak
Thank
Sia,
you,
Mbak
Mbak
Lia.
Griselda, for the translation. It was
Yes,
really
yeah, Mbak
good.
Griselda.
Terima kasih, Mbak Griselda.
Okay. Yeah, the technicians, yeah. Here's the technician as well. So terima kasih Bapak Ibu, para peserta.
Makasih Mbak Lia.
Iya, terima kasih Bapak.
Yuk, sampai ketemu lagi ya. Mudah-mudahan di kampus.
See the cat. This is the cat.
Uhuh.
So this is the cat that has been trying to get into the webinar all the time, right?